Hi, my name's Heather Robertson-Devine. I'm the owner of Books Del Sur, and I'm coming to you live today from the bodega, which is where we house all of our books. It has been a crazy beginning of the year for us as usual. I hope it's been good for you. I am I think it's important for me to recognize before I go further the news of regarding our DACA recipients. We are thinking of you, wishing you peace, and know that this is a very stressful time. And I feel like kind of my words are just a little bit, there's nothing I can say really. This sucks, and we will continue to voice our opinions and call our legislators to advocate for you, and we are grateful to have you in the community. There are very close friends of Books Del Sur that are DACA recipients, that are dreamers, that are doing amazing things in the United States, and we support you and we love you. And we are hoping that these next 6 months are a time for action and a time for change and a time for us to make better policy and more permanent policy for you to stay here. So call your legislators. That's my political rant. I don't know about rant, but that's my political thought. I'm wearing my shirt today from my friends at East High School in Madison, Wisconsin. They ordered shirts last year, and it says they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we are seeds, which was an amazing Mexican proverb. So I'm with you. I'm strong. And I need to continue to do this work, because the work of Books Del Sur is exactly this. It's to fight against it's to create the counter narrative, which is really the honest narrative and the true narrative. So today I want to talk about narratives and this question I get all of the time, which is, hey Heather, do you have books for X reading level? And you know, when we try and put our kids in reading levels, it's just like saying that they're really into animals, or they're really into this, and we know that everyone's really dynamic. So at Books Del Sur, we try to honor people's uniquenesses, yet at the same time we want to be supportive of you, of teachers, and we get that, we understand that we have to put grades on report cards and things like that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we think about grade levels. And I'm sure that we're overthinking it, but I want you to know that we're overthinking it for you, because this is not something to take lightly. We know that it's a way of creating the haves and the have-nots. You know, you're either on grade level or you're not, and so we want to be really careful about that, to perpetuate that narrative of kids having and kids not having, because they all have amazing strengths and assets, right? So to the question, hey, do you have books for grade level? And this is my most recent one, and this is for my friend Leslie down in Texas. And you know, we also have you know, our survivors of Harvey. I'm very glad to know that so many of you survived, and it's going to be a long fight back. And what we can do to support you as well, we're talking with people and community members. We are going to do our best to get these books here to the classrooms in need. So to answer Leslie's question from Texas, she says, hey Heather, do you have books for 5th and 6th grade reading levels? And my response is always, sure, yeah. I mean, well, sorta. What do you mean by 5th and 6th grade? And then this is where it gets a little bit sticky. So we found that with authentic literature, so keep in mind, Books Del Sur books are written in Spanish in Latin American countries. So with authentic literature, there's often a suggestion on the books that is not necessarily relevant. So this, for example, says a partir de 9 años, so from 9 years old. 9 years old is, you know, it could be a 3rd grader, right? And this book is not exactly for 3rd graders, and I'll talk a little bit about more why. So one of their basic rules is that we found is that we need to go at least an age or 2 above the grade level, just because Spanish is not our dominant language in the United States, right? So that's a place to start. We have also concluded that because Spanish is a phonetic language, that once students can crack the code, and this is especially true for our dual language kids, in dual language programs that are maybe not well, it's true for all of them. I shouldn't say that. So this is true for Spanish because it's a phonetic language, it's a syllabic language. Once kids can crack the code, they can sound out and say most words. So in 5th and 6th grade especially, kids are able to say words, but that doesn't necessarily know that they understand. And so vocabulary related to the story is so essential, right? And how do we level books by vocabulary? We really can't. We can give books a reading level by the content, so what's appropriate for students to be reading, and even then we all have kind of different opinions of what's appropriate and what's not, so that gets a little bit tricky. So what we would say is that vocabulary related to the story is really important. It's really important that you stay ahead of your students. And I get it. I've been a teacher for a long time. There's many days where I was reading a book, and I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be reading this. Maybe the teacher should have read it before. So try and stay at least one day ahead, people. And and even better, try and stay more ahead. Ask your principals for time, your administrators for time for reading. It's really important. So I want to give you an example of a story. That this one, for example, takes place in the Dominican Republic. And this story, it's one of my absolute favorites, Hay que Salvar a Sole by Angelica Dossetti. It takes place in the Dominican Republic. And, you know, we put the word setting on our study guides and things like that. We talk about studying the Dominican Republic. But once I realized that my students really, really didn't know much at all about the Dominican Republic, like the fact that it's an island, vocabulary is... Okay, we're still live. Sorry, I guess it wasn't not a very good connection. So it's things like that that are really important for you to identify, but we can't identify it all, right? So having discussions with our students is key. And having discussions with our students one-on-one or in small group or listening in on conversations that they have, that's really essential for you to glean onto those ideas. Once I realized my students didn't really have that much information about the Dominican Republic, we went back, we made some adjustments, and then we moved forward better. Did I wish I knew that before or earlier? Absolutely, always. But could I have known without having a discussion with them? No, because you can't quiz them on everything. So listening and making those observations, just like Marie Clay says, are so important for us. So I want to share some examples with you of the books that I'm going to recommend to Leslie and why I'm going to recommend them to her. Okay, so I want to start with some nonfiction books. So our nonfiction books, we have higher reading levels. So this one I would say is a 5th, 6th reading level. It's an amazing book called Ecos Verdes, which is a great book to talk about environmental issues. And Ecos Verdes, por ejemplo, it has some great headings, some great illustrations to support the text, but the information in it is pretty dense. I mean, look at this one. It's talking about combustibles fósiles, fossil fuels, and so those are complex topics supported by great illustrations, supported by headings and things like that, but the topics and the content of it are very dense. So we would recommend it for 5th and 6th grade. And how we can't really say 5th or 6th grade exactly because it really depends on your program and your students that you have. So, but we wouldn't recommend this for 3rd grade unless you're doing a lot of scaffolding. Another example I want to give you is this one, El Alerce, which is about a tree, which is like a sycamore tree, and it is a book that goes through the history. So the history of the tree. It talks about all kinds of things, but I wanted to specifically point out this section with history in it, which I should have really marked the page, but I didn't. So it goes through and it says hace 13,000 años, and then it goes on to say another time period is los primeros encuentros de los españoles. So it is going through the book as a timeline. So the headings in this help us to create a timeline, but at the same time, those are some really abstract times in our history. And so without that knowledge, understanding a tree can become a little bit complicated. So those are concepts in this book, whereas it's supported by some illustrations. It is still a picture book. Make it a higher level reader. As well as this book is very long. It is oh, sorry. So it has about 45 pages in it, and they're really dense pages. So what I want to show you though is that this book is incredible because it has an amazing timeline to support that whole text. So it's a kind of book that you could actually just use to teach just with this timeline, right? Which is something that you could use to differentiate with your different groups. However, as a reading level, and when you sit down and read this book, it's definitely a fifth, 6th grade level book. It is in our 3rd through 5th informational text set, but we'd say that it's higher. And then we have other nonfiction books, which this is a biography about Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda is a Nobel Prize winning poet from Chile, and it's in this one's in our biography set. And this book, for example, you can see text not so dense, right? Not so dense. But really, with no background about Pablo Neruda, this book is going to be a little bit abstract. It's going to be a nice book about a story about a man, but we want to give kids some context about him. So this book, we would not say is absolutely 4th, 5th. We'd say it's more 3rd, 4th grade level book. Okay, so I wanted to show you that as a contrast from the 3rd, 4th grade books. I wonder what time I'm on. Hi, Olga. Hi, Ken. How's it going over there with the wildfires, Ken? Sorry about that. Ugh. Man. Okay, so then also I wanted to show you another type of book. This one is a nice solid 4th grade, okay? Got some great headings, great text, supported by illustrations. But again, it's, sorry I didn't say the name of the book, La Ballena Jorobada. This is a book that, if kids are interested in humpback whales, took me a while to translate that, then it's a great book for them. But if they're not, it might be a little bit of a struggle, especially because this is a lot of heavy academic, as we say, vocabulary around animals. So I'd say this is a really nice, strong 4th grade level reader. So what we're talking about here are levels, reading levels of books. And when I'm talking about reading levels, when it gets to the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and actually more 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, it becomes this really complex, messy thing of pulling apart texts in terms of their content. One thing that we can say for sure is that length of books does matter. So when students are reading at 4th and 5th grade and 6th grade level, the one thing that can change is their stamina and their ability to read longer books. So it's pretty consistent for us to say that a book. It's pretty easy for us to say. It's easy for us to say that a book like this, that has a lot of text on a page, right, and has about 100 pages, is a 4th or 5th grade level book. Whether it's 4th or 5th or 5th or 6th, that's where it becomes really tricky for us. And that's where it's much easier for us to make recommendations based on what you're teaching or what your students like. So we do offer some classroom libraries of about, for the upper grades they have 80 books, and for the lower grades we've got 55 books, and they have a nice range of books like I'm showing you, all of these different ranges depending on genre and reading level. The book I'm showing you here is a fiction chapter book, and fiction chapter books you can have more pages, and because most of the content is a little bit more accessible because it's based on realistic fiction or fantasy fiction. Let me show you one of my favorite fantasy books we have. This is an example of Yakai. It's a fantasy series. It does have some illustrations on it and some pages without. It's 152 pages. So there we go. Can you see the length issue here? So the length becomes an issue and a factor in rating whether we go 4th or 5th. This is a great book for 4th graders. And then the second book in the series, which is right here, the second book in this series is recommended for 5th and 6th grade readers. It has more pages. It has 188 pages. It is recommended for a higher reading level. But let me caution you this. Once my 4th graders read the first one, they ate up the second one. There is a third one that's a little bit longer. That one was a little bit more challenging for them to eat up. But one of the reasons that they ate it up was because they really love the characters. So we can't discount engagement either, right? That's just another thing that we have to consider. So all of these factors make it really complicated. And I'm not talking about all these factors just out of my Heather world. These are actually things that Fountas and Pinnell as well measure in their reading rubric. And we really respect the work of Fountas and Pinnell. They have been pioneers in terms of us thinking about reading levels and matching them to our readers. Really, really important stuff. One of the things that we're concerned about with Fountas and Pinnell is their lack of consideration of the Spanish language. And do we have an answer to that or a response to that? No, but we do have some concerns. And that's about all I mean, we have some concerns about just, especially in the lower grades, them not considering the fact that Spanish is a syllabic phonetic language. They like to impose English grammar on it, which we feel really uncomfortable with, because I don't know if you know the work of Kim Potowski. We're not really into being language imperialists. We've already colonized enough people, right? So those things make us feel uncomfortable. So we're going to stick to what we feel comfortable with. We're going to talk about the books, what's in the books, and focus on vocabulary and how we can support them. I bet you're wondering, Heather, what kinds of supports are there available to me? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, not a whole lot. We are a young company. We are developing. I've got some great teachers in the field right now working on some amazing study guides for you, and we're focusing on vocabulary related to content, vocabulary related to illustrations, and vocabulary related to one other thing, syntax and grammar. So those are the three areas that we're focusing on our vocabulary development. We hope to have some guides for you out by the end of the year. So in December, we hope to have some samples for you out to test them. And I just wanted to end today with a few other chapter books that also are important for us to mention, because they are hybrid chapter books. So we talked about fiction, we talked about nonfiction, and then you've got these interesting mixes of this book, for example, is one of my all-time favorites. It's pretty rare that a teacher can glam onto it because it takes a special teacher. It's Mackey el microbio desconocido. It's about a microbe and his journey in his life. So it's personalizing a microbe, which is a scientific concept. Amazing idea. Hernan de Solar is a very famous author. He's done some very prolific work. He's outstanding. This is an incredible book, but it's really seeped deep in some serious scientific concepts. So if those scientific concepts aren't supported or already understood with some serious background information, a lot will be lost. It may just sound like a really fun story to a kid, but the depth of it might be lost. So this book right here we'd recommend for a unique 4th grader, definitely a 5th grader, and a 6th grader as well. If you're going to use it in your classroom, we recommend you supporting it with those scientific ideas. And then finally, we have this other series, which we actually put in our biography series, probably a little bit controversial, but it's a series of Un Día en la Vida de. And this one I specifically chose because it's Chimalpopoca. I had it right before I started. Chimalpopoca, El Niño Azteca. Okay, so this is a story of a Niño Azteca, and it's different stories, but it also has some serious historical information in it, right? And so this is a story that is a hybrid. We can't say it's a pure nonfiction, but we also can't say it's a pure fiction. So a book like this only has 80 some pages in it. So you might think, oh, it's a great 3rd grade level reader. We don't recommend it for 3rd grade because of the dense text and the content of it. So we recommend it for upper 4th, 5th, or 6th grade levels. So those are some examples of our books and how we think about their reading levels. It is not a simple question. One thing that's really important to us is if you get a book from us, you don't like it, you return it. And we talk about why, what's going to help you, what's a different one. We will take returns on books as long as they're not used, because we can't resell them. If you need, and we want to work with you, so please contact us if there's a book that's just not going to meet your needs. We hope that it will meet some child's need in your school, because all of our learners are so diverse and different, and their interests are so diverse and different. I'll talk to you another day about book choice and the power of classroom libraries with book choice, but if you haven't checked it out, check out Lucy Calkins' videos about classroom libraries. Really amazing. And or if you haven't heard Lester Lamanick talk about book choice in classroom libraries, he's another great resource for you. So for today, that's reading levels. Messy, sticky, no clear answer. We want you to think about reading levels and supporting our readers in the areas of vocabulary, so focusing on the vocabulary of the text related to content, focusing on the books in terms of comprehension strategies and the strategies that our students are using to comprehend their behaviors they have. What is their stamina? What kind of environment is important for them to read in? And then having those conversations with kids. I didn't say it right. Conversations with kids, listening to them is important. Making observations, just like Marie Clay taught us with our little people, is just as important with our big people. So stay strong, people. Stay vigilant. Let's keep talking to our kids about the diversity in our literature, all of the many narratives that are out there to support the stories of our country and the world, and let's help our students become some great readers, bilingual readers. I hope that you open a book today and it opens your world. Please contact me if you have any questions. I'd love to give you a customized order or share with you some of our different book collections to support your readers. Have a great day. Thank you for all your support.